Samaritans. We'll be with you as soon as we possibly can. Please stay on the line. We're here to offer you emotional support, whatever you're going through. We're putting you through to a volunteer now.
Can I help you?
Good evening. My name is Howie.
Hello, sir. Can you say that again?
Good evening. My name is Howie.
Howie. Hi, Howie. How are you?
I'm deluded.
I'm sorry, the line is very, very bad when you're speaking. It's cracking up quite a lot.
I apologize for that, but I hear you very clearly.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so tell me what made you call today?
According to the doctors, I am deluded.
You're deluded. Is that what doctors are saying?
Yes, they say that I'm a fantasist and that I live in a world of science fiction. And they are very angry with me and dismissive of me.
They're angry with you?
Very angry.
And how does that make you feel?
Well, I don't want my children abused, so I think that's unprofessional. The reason for the engagement of these professionals is to stop the abuse of my children.
To stop the abuse of your children?
Yeah.
So do you have children living with you?
No, I've never lived with my children. I'm brain injured.
Right, so did you say you're brain injured?
Yes, I'm a brain injured patient.
Are you in hospital at the moment?
No,
Or at home?
no, my brain injury was 35 years ago. I'm a homeless person. So my children stayed with my brother in Wales, and he didn't do a good job, so the police and the social workers broke in and abducted the children and had them deported to a country where they have no family, where they were violated. And the person with whom the High Court judge put my children told me I should take my children back to Wales. But I can't do that because my brother can't do a very good job. And also, if the social workers and police break in again and I want to save my children, I have to have a personal welfare deputy or a personal welfare guardian through the court of protection. Unfortunately, the court of protection doesn't have disabled access, so I can't get that. I've been trying for 14 years.
And has anything happened today, Howie, to cause you to call Samaritans?
Yes. So I went to a GP this morning and repeated my request for the deputy. I spoke to Dr. Wilson, a Nigerian doctor in Southwark, and he told me this is a job of the social workers. However, I haven't got the mental capacity to communicate with the social workers. He also suggested the Citizens Advice Bureau. Yet again, I do not have the mental capacity to communicate with the Citizens Advice Bureau.
Well, why do you say you haven't got the capacity?
Because I will have a seizure and won't make myself understood.
So what do you want to happen?
Right, so I'm going to try to explain what a deputy is, because I've been researching this for 14 years. So, a deputy in its classical sense is like a lawyer or a panel of lawyers who charge £400 an hour and they never have any contact.
Howie, sorry, can I interrupt you for a sec? It is very difficult to hear what you're saying. Your voice is breaking up, so I think it might be, I don't know if it's the phone, but it is quite difficult to hear what you're saying. So clearly I want to listen to what you've got to say.
I will say it slowly. By tradition, a deputy is a lawyer that costs £400 an hour, or a panel of lawyers, and they never meet the patient. But the correct type of deputy I require is not that type of deputy. I need a medical deputy. This is somebody who sees me every day. It's about being able to represent my will. If somebody doesn't see me every day, then they will not understand my will. They will not be able to represent my will. So the traditional deputies and panels of deputies, who are the £400 an hour lawyers, they are not medical deputies because they cannot represent the will of the patient. And there are three types of will when it comes to deputies. There is the actual will of the patient without the deputy. Then you have the will of the deputy without the patient. Then you have the will of the deputy as what they think is best for the patient. And then you have the will of the patient represented by the deputy, and it doesn't matter what the deputy believes is good for the patient. That's irrelevant. It's about what the will of the patient is. So, for example, if the patient is in a coma and the patient has expressed every day to the deputy that they wish to have an extra part of their body cut off, for whatever bizarre reason that happens to be, and that patient is in a coma, the deputy has to comply with the will of that person in a coma to cut a part of that person's body, no matter how bizarre it is, because that is the patient's will. That is what they want. And that is the job of the deputy, not to do what is best for the patient, but to do the will of the patient.
Right, so you're saying that you think somebody needs to be able to see you every day in order to be able to communicate what your will is.
Exactly. That is what a will is. A will is not a deputy sitting behind a desk who never sees the patient, some expensive lawyer.
And what is it that you would want to communicate via the medical deputy?
Well, I want my children to come home.
And when did you last see them?
When did I last see who?
Your children.
I don't know where my children are. A long time ago.
Are they going to be adults now?
Yeah, maybe some of them, yes. Well, that doesn't mean that the government should get away with deporting innocent children to foreign countries where they're going to be abused. Even if my children are have lived to 100 years old and are dead, I can still lodge my appeal against their deportation, and they can bring their coffins or their ashes back to the United Kingdom. It's irrelevant, because what has been done to these children is wrong.
And is that something that you have discussed in the past, or have you not been able to communicate about that?
No, that's been my will for 14 years. Whether I can discuss it or not is another matter. I don't think there's anybody who wants to listen to me.
So you feel you need somebody who could talk to you, who could see you every day.
Yeah, and I had somebody like that for 3 years, but they disappeared a few months ago. And I explained to you what that is. And it might be difficult for you to understand, because I think the doctors don't understand. If you can't walk, you have a wheelchair. And people might think, oh, that wheelchair is separate from that person. But it's not. It's an integral part of your body. So if I'm going somewhere in my wheelchair, and then people think I'm struggling, and they come up to me, and they start to push my wheelchair because they think they're helping me without talking to me, that's an assault. Because they've touched my wheelchair without asking me. That's like me going up to somebody in the street and grabbing them, or whatever, like doing a sexual assault. Same thing, little bit different. Now, when in the same way a wheelchair is an orthotic support for your legs not working, a deputy is an orthotic support for your brain not working. But they're different from a wheelchair because they have a will, a free will to walk wherever they want.
So what support do you have at the moment?
So if you see a wheelchair in the street, you can just pick it up and think it's abandoned and take it home. But if you see a person in the street and you try to take them home, that's kidnapping. You understand? There's a difference between a wheelchair and a person, as in a medical device to help another human being. So if my brain doesn't work and I haven't got mental capacity, I have to use part of another human being's brain in order to regain capacity. And the difference between a wheelchair for legs and a deputy for a brain is that a wheelchair cannot walk off somewhere and make its own decisions, but a deputy can. So when my deputy disappeared 2 months ago, it was like part of my brain walking off. I would be less devastated if my wheelchair had disappeared. But when part of your brain disappears, it affects you in a very different way. And I don't know if you can really understand it. It's like let me try to explain. When somebody dies, there's a thing called bereavement or grief. So if my wheelchair disappears, one could be upset that one cannot mobilize. In the same way, if your deputy disappears, you can be upset or unhappy because your brain doesn't work. But there is something additional to it. Additional, it's like a deeper form of being upset, like grief or bereavement. Because you start doing things, you start doing bad antisocial things. The fact that you have shared a deputy's brain for 3 years, it makes you more normal, more socially acceptable. You start going to church and things like that. But when the deputy goes, you can't go to church anymore because you can't behave in church. You start getting into trouble with the police.
And has that been happening?
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm trying to explain. And
right.
And so that when part of your brain goes missing, bad things will start happening to you. And it's not only that bad things happen to you, like the police attack you for no reason, and you start having these feelings of bereavement, of grief, a very intense bereavement and very intense feelings of grief. Is that like?
Have you been able to talk about that?
Is like a kind of. I would say maybe it's depression, or something like that.
But is that something you've been able to talk about? I know you said you spoke to your doctor this morning.
But I can't tell the doctor I'm having bereavement or grief or depression, because he would just pick up a great big jar of tranquilizers, lie me down on my back, place that large big glass jar of tranquilizers upon my mouth, take the biggest possible sledgehammer he could possibly found, and smash that great big jar of pills down my throat until my head is nothing but pulp, and he would have to be arrested for psychopathic murder. I don't want to take your pills, doctor. I want my deputy back. You cannot possibly sedate me. You cannot possibly tranquilize me to a state in which I am a cabbage. I am not a cabbage. I'm a human being. And the medical treatment that I want is the return of my deputy, not your stupid jar of pills. So I cannot tell my GP because I don't trust him, because I think that he is a corrupt crook owned by the pharmaceutical industry who's paid to prescribe people pills and turn them into cabbages.
So what's the solution?
Well, you asked me a question, I answered it. Have I spoken to anyone about it?
So what is the solution for you? You say you can't speak to your GP.
I tried. I spoke to the GP, and he told me to go to the Citizens Advice Bureau, where I'm banned, and go to the social services, who don't have disabled access. So what am I supposed to do?
Do you have any means of contact with social services? Have you been in touch?
I have been writing to these complete idiotic morons for decades. These people are utterly stupid. They are brainless. They are the most stupid people on the planet. If you get a failed university student, you give them a certificate from Social Work England and they become a social worker. These people are complete morons. They don't even know what a deputy is. How can they help me with a deputy if they haven't even been to school and studied what a deputy is? I have made dozens and dozens and dozens of reports to Social Work England reporting social workers for not being fit to practice. Yet Social Work England itself is not fit to practice. So they can't do anything with the paperwork I send them. Today I sent them 2 more fitness to practice investigation requests. All they're going to say is, "Oh my God, it's that bloody Howie again. Is he not dead? God, somebody hurry up and kill this moron. He's making our life a misery." That's what they're probably thinking in Social Work England.
So who can you talk to?
Exactly. That's the question, isn't it? It's pointless because we're living in a system that doesn't work. We have people like doctors and social workers who believe a certain thing, but they're completely unaware that whatever they believe doesn't work. There are 2 million people in the United Kingdom who require a deputy because they lack mental capacity. Yet the Court of Protection only provides 5,000, which is 1 in 400, less than 0.25%. Because the Court of Protection is hopelessly inadequate.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I suffer from catatonia. Sometimes I just become catatonic, and I just drift off in an aura. And I'm just tired of making reports about social workers who are not fit to practice.
Do you get any sleep?
I don't sleep much now. I'm always worrying about my children because they've been abducted by the state. And
How many do you have?
Pardon?
How many children do you have?
9 children. And but the worst thing is that being a disabled person without mental capacity, I'm living in constant fear of the police and the social workers always breaking in. And that's probably another reason why I can't sleep. I often spend my time looking for another country to live in. But I don't think there is anywhere, to be honest. Given my state of vulnerability, I tried living in Guinea 9 years ago, but I just ended up in prison because the people took pity upon me and started to cook for me and do shopping and wash my clothes. But they did it on a military encampment, and so we were all arrested and put in prison for trespass. And I was in prison for 2 months.
It must have been very difficult.
Yes, you have to be very careful. They don't care too much in that place. It's quite brutal.
So what about the here and now, Howie? It's sort of 10:30 in the evening.
So I describe my situation, and I think that, rightly or wrongly, that doctors themselves haven't got the mental capacity to understand what a deputy is. They don't seem to understand that having a deputy is sharing part of another person's brain that can just wander off and disappear, and that it is very likely to wander off and disappear because of the vile and despicable nature of the patient that they're attached to. And so the kind of person that you can get to be your deputy is going to be a very lowly person from society's underbelly who is in all likelihood